Man-Thing is made of swamp mush. Yuck. Hey, welcome back to the channel. All right, Battlegrounds is here. We've got our new meta, which is going to be Bulwark. And I think for the vast majority of the player base, Bulwark's going to be the meta for almost the whole season, this whole first season. I'm sure some of folks will eventually start to make it into, I think it's called the Gladiator Circuit or things like that, where the meta changes. Now, I normally do a tier list for these sorts of things, but this meta is so specific. I actually love it that doing a tier list just it didn't feel like it would deliver the nuance it's actually needed and be truly helpful to everyone. So the tier list will continue, but it's going to be a monthly general tier list for you're considering rank ups, and it will work. And I think will be helpful because guess what? For the most part, champions that are very good in that tier list are really good in this meta as long as the meta doesn't exclude them, right? That's why we're not seeing as many cosmic champions. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take a look at how I've broken it down. I'm going to take a look at my deck, and I'm going to talk to you about my top 10 favorites in the dual threat category, attacker category, and defender category. And it's going to be broken down into 3 videos. If you're enjoying the content, make sure you hit like, subscribe, share this. It is all extremely, extremely helpful. The other thing I want to mention is this is all very personalized, and I want this to be in every single video. Please play champions that you're good at or that you're comfortable or you want to get good at. I tried so hard to make like Black Cat fit into this because I do think she could be great in this mode, but I'm just not good with her. There's something not clicking for me. I do like her, but it's just not working. And so as a result, I removed her from my deck, put in other champions, and my performance went significantly, significantly better. Also, I don't have an Archangel. Yes, he could be one of the best attackers in the game. I don't enjoy using him. It works out better for me to have all these dual threats and make sure I'm always banning Archangel. So keep that in mind as you go ahead and watch these videos. All right, now let's go ahead and get to it. All right, it's time to talk about the defenders. This is an essential part of the Battleground deck. I used to be all about dual threats. I wanted everyone to be dual threats, but as we've gone, as metas have shifted, become maybe a bit more nuanced, and as more strategies are developing, I realized I need to have some dedicated attackers, dedicated defenders. They've been extremely helpful to me, getting better at that strategy, and I want to share with you who, for me, has been my top, 10. I'm going with, the reason I had the pause there is I'm going to list 10 defenders, but the fact of the matter is I have so many dual threats. It's worked out better for me not to have all of these defenders, and there's only one that I'm going to list that I don't have. It's Thing. I have recently removed him. What I found was I really didn't enjoy using him on attack at all. There was just no sense for me in that. And then also, so many people have options for Thing. Now that could change, but I found I was frequently run into of course, Hitmonkey, but even champions like Clairvoyant or things like that were taking him out, and I needed him to fulfill a role where he was taking longer. I didn't need him to defeat the attacker, but I needed him to take longer, and he just wasn't able to do it. It wasn't working out for me, but I've also gone up against people like today on stream where they used a Thing and they were able to beat me with him. So he definitely has value, and I wanted to point that out. All right, now let's move on to, for me, defender number 9, which is Bishop. And it's interesting because he does have some offensive use, and you'll see that that's going to be a theme throughout all of these. Even though I'm saying they're defenders, there's still dual threat with a lot of them. He handles a lot of those skill champions who are going to be trying to shrug it, but he's really there for me as a defender. Now, he's also starting to suffer from the same problem that Thing is. It's not nearly as extreme, though. People know how to take him. They're using some of their tech attackers for him. I'm even starting to see war machines every once in a while, your ghosts, or a well-played Kitty Pryde can really handle him. And then, of course, as we get farther in, we're going to have the immortal Iron Man. But right now, he's doing a great job for me. It also helps, though, that mine is rank 4 Sig 180 or 200. So that's going to go a long way. He can trip people up. I'm not finding him extending fights as much as sometimes he just obliterates them because they push him to his SB2, and he takes care of them for me. All right, let's go ahead and move on to champion number 9. Champion 9 is Teddy Hulkling. As metas shift, I think we'll see him going back as an attacker. I actually have used him a few times to take out Penny Parkers. It's a little tough not to end up triggering the node with Hulkling, but I've won fights that way because he can do it so quick. On the other side, defender, as we're talking about, unless they have that fate seal, You're still going to have him prolong the fight, indestructible, the healing, all of that. Even Doom can have some real problems with him. He can elongate the fight, pause the fight, whatever term you want to use, long enough for you to use your attacker, get in there and win that way. Plus, as his buffs get going, if he hits into the block, he's going to do some really nice damage against that attacker, which is going to help you score even more points. Number 7 is Man-Thing. There's just one thing I want to point out, because I don't know how many people know this and may not realize why he is so good for this, right? Man-Thing is made of swamp mush, yuck, and lacks any meaningful weak points to exploit. This makes him immune to armor break, which the Note is already doing, but he's got it there, or shatter, cool. But this is, I think, the big thing. It prevents critical hits from dealing bonus damage. So he's just taking a long time. Plus, if you're running Mystic Dispersion, he's putting those buffs, or the pustules, on the attacker, causing lots of problems, making them bait out specials. I think he, for the most part, he's not going to win the fight. He's not going to kill the attacker, but he's often going to elongate it, delay the whole thing, give you plenty of time, you go in with your attacker, and finish off your opponent. Okay, number 6. I'm sure a lot of you are like, Domino's number 6? And actually she is. For me, anyways. Now, the thing is, if Domino pops up, I almost always am selecting her, and that's because I've used her for a lot of offensive roles too. I'll talk about that more in the dual threat, but don't underestimate that part of her kit. There's a lot that she can take care of it. Just make sure you catch the dual threat video as well. Now, of course, she's crit failing people left and right, and she can go lucky, which means if they stun her, there's that temptation to still attack, but she will often shrug the stun more quickly. You don't even really want to bleed her. Just so many things can go wrong. I've won fights against extremely skilled players because she crit fails something like ghost phasing mechanic. It just happens. She always gives you a chance to win, or if you sig her up, to do some really nice damage along the way. I love her. She is one of the champions that if she pops up, I bring her in because I know there's a very good chance she's going to fulfill a role for me, primarily as a defender, but not always. Make sure to keep an eye out for the dual threat video as well. Let's move on to number 5, which is Penny Parker, another champion, which I'm sure some of you are like, why isn't she higher? Now, in this meta, she is a very tough defeat. However, there is starting to be some strategy, some people realizing, caught on. I was taught by Slaymon on my stream on how to handle her in this meta. She's still going to do some damage to you. She's still going to make the fight take a long time, which for me, perfect. That's what I want out of my defenders. That's great. There are champions that can handle her, and maybe I'm devaluing her a little bit as an attacker because I have Teddy and I have Gallon. Gallon rinses her in this. She's still great. She's fantastic. And just like with Domino, do not sleep on her as an attacker. Make sure you see the dual threat video as well. I've used her a lot, more than you would think, to not only take out champions like Immortal Abomination today on stream, but also Nick Furies. There's a strategy to it, but she's causing a lot of problems for you. You pull her in as a defender, she's going to cause problems not for you, for your opponent. Now we're kind of getting back to the pure defenders where like I really can't imagine a scenario where I'm using Sasquatch for attack in this meta, right? But he's got the nice immunity there with having him be armor break immune. Then plus he starts to heal, right? He's so big, he's so beefy, it causes a lot of problems. People are going to use negatives, scorpions, things like that. I had someone take out my Sasquatch with a spider ham in only 53 seconds today. It really stood out to me. I guess with exceptional RNG and they must have just played exceptionally well because they had 97% health at the end of it, which was surprising because you really think that he'd be needing to parry quite a bit on that. But spider ham, there's a lot of RNG, but even still, that's such a surprising result, and it still took 53 seconds. And I have a feeling the player must have played exceptionally well. So with that whole scenario, still 53 seconds. If that's the downside, if that's the floor to Sasquatch, you've got yourself an excellent, excellent defender. Don't let people torch him. Don't let people Archangel him. You're probably going to be just fine. All right, number 3 is Korg. I happen to take my Korg to rank 3, SIG 200. I don't think a ton of explanation is needed here, right? Even champions that are quote unquote good for him are taking quite a long time. They take time. Havoc's been all right for it, but that means you got to have the Havoc in your deck. And Campo showing us he can use your Havoc for a lot of things, but still, that's someone you got to carry, and still that takes a while. And that's probably one of the best options for him. I know people are using Doom. I typically use Doom for him, but he's gonna stall that fight. And so much this is strategy. You don't need your defender to kill the attacker, but if they make that fight take a long time, and like Korg often can do, if they're taking some health off, they're chipping away at it, that's more points for you or less points for them, which means your chances of victory are going higher and higher. I don't think this is just because of the meta either. I think Korg's one of those champions, like, it's worth ranking. I think he's going to be in a lot of my decks. Number 2 is Nick Fury. I don't think this, again, needs a lot of explanation, but it is there, especially if you have the higher Sig. It's going to make that second life last a while. Some of the best options for him are, I guess, Sunspot's still a pretty good option for him. Toad is excellent, but the thing with Toad is you kind of need some RNG. You need those active poisons to, 1, be at a high amount when he goes into second life. 2, you need them to transfer into the passives. So even then, and then honestly, one of my favorite counters for him is Domino, but the assuredness, I think that's a word, of Penny Parker. Again, I'll talk more about that in dual threats, but that is a very, very limited amount of options for taking out your Nick Fury. I guess a skilled Kitty player as well, but that is very few and far between. And this is why he's listed for me above Korg, is that he does have offensive use, especially if you're spec'd into deep wounds. He's going to handle some champions for you. You'd be really surprised when Buddy Nerd has done incredible things with his rank 4 Nick Fury. And then number 1 is Killmonger. Now, he is a great defender. When I do a general tier list, which I think I'm going to still do every month, just so people have a general idea, because we don't always know what the meta is going to be. And what I found is that the champions that were ranked high on a general tier list for Battlegrounds are, for the most part, doing well, unless the node just removes them. Now, this is a unique case, though, and I want to make this clear. Him being armor break immune is not transformative, because he was already a great defender, but man, does it skyrocket him. He will not be the number 1 defender, I think, in the next mode, right? Or the next meta. But with being armor break immune, you're constantly having to worry about reverberation. He has that really high crit resistance. And then champions that apply a debuff to him are giving him a ton of power. So you're either accidentally pushing him red, or you're constantly dealing with baiting out specials. For me, he is the best defender. I've had so much success placing him on defense, and then having that confidence when I go in with my attacker that, hey, Killmonger's gonna make that fight take a while. I don't need to play risky. I can play it super safe. I'm just gonna will down this defender, and I come out with the victory. So these were the defenders. Some of them are greatly enhanced, like Killmonger, by the current meta. Others not. They're just great defenders. They take a long time, and it works out really well with my deck, the way I've worked it through. Make sure you check out the attacker video and the dual threat video, and let me know who you're using. I'm sure there's going to be some defenders where you're like, hey, this defender can be sneaky good, or hey, dude, I cannot believe you missed this one. Let me know. Let's share that knowledge. Let's help more and more people climb up the victory track and have a lot of fun in this game mode. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. I hope you either learned something, were entertained, or even better, a little bit of both. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.